welcome to Crisco for You Too. I'm going to do an apple pie bake. I'm going to show you what to do with that leftover bread when you have it. Now this is similar to a bread pudding. We're only going to change one ingredient, and because of the way you make the bread pudding, because you make it with old bread, stale bread, I'm just going to show you how to spruce that up just a little bit, and we're going to turn this into a delicious dessert that I think you will love. So I'm going to show you the ingredients that we're going to need. To bake this apple pie bake, you're going to need brown sugar. It really doesn't matter if it's light or dark. I'm using light brown sugar. You're going to need 3 eggs. We're going to need some cinnamon, 1.5 cups of milk. This is a 12-ounce container of carnation milk, and we know that 8 ounces is 1 cup. So this is like 1.5 cups of carnation milk here. You're going to need a stick of butter, some lemon and vanilla flavor. Now you really don't need to use lemon and vanilla flavor. You can only use either or. I like lemon and vanilla mixed because it gives a good flavor, but you can just go with the vanilla part of that. And you're going to need 2 Granny Smith's apples, which is what I have here. Now you're going to need some stale bread. And the bread that I have that was sitting over there, and we were kind of eating it kind of slow, I'm like, okay, well, let me just go ahead and make a apple pie bake with this. I have here roughly about 8 slices of regular sandwich bread. I have 3 hamburger buns that I had left over from really the holiday, and then I have a half of a loaf of cinnamon raisin bread. Now normally you would just use the cinnamon bread, and this ingredient is very important because this is going to help bring in some of the cinnamon, and it's going to bring in some of the sweetness. So you definitely need, whether it be cinnamon, regular cinnamon bread or cinnamon raisin bread, you definitely need this. So now you can make a bread pudding without this and just using regular bread, but we're doing an apple pie bake, and you know cinnamon is a main ingredient when you're making apple pies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away and I'm going to chop up these apples, because you need these apples to be kind of really diced up. I'm going to dice up these apples, and I'm going to come back and show you how to put together this dessert. I'll be right back. Okay, now we're back, and I'm just going to show you how to do a couple of things before we actually get to the cooking process of the apples. Here it is. I have I cubed up my my bread. And the only reason why I cubed up the bread is because we had a 2-hour power outage, so I needed to do something. So I had to sit here and wait before I could finish this video. But you don't have to cube the bread. That's why I left these 2 pieces, just to show you that you can just tear the bread up. Okay, and that's still going to work fine. I just cubed it because I didn't have anything else to do, and I was sitting here waiting on the lights to come back. We were in the middle of a storm, so I just sat there and cubed it up. Now that's the first thing that you do. After you do that, you take your stick of melted butter minus 1 tablespoon, because we need that tablespoon to make the apples, the tablespoon of butter. So you take the butter and you just put it all over your bread, okay, just the way I have it. Now you sit that aside, and then you start to make up the mix that's going to go into that particular mixture. Here I have my 3 eggs. I'm going to beat them. Okay, now that I've beat them, I'm going to put them into the bowl. To that, I'm going to add 1 cup of my brown sugar. Now, it's going to actually take 1.5 cups, but I'll show you what we're going to do with the other part of it. Now, I have the 1.5 cups of milk, and I'm using carnation. You can just use regular whole milk if that's what you choose. I like carnation because for some reason I just get a richer taste with it. So here I have the cup of carnation, or the 1.5 cups rather of carnation. I'm going to pour all of that into this mix. Once I do that, stir it just a little bit. And I'll tell you why I did this process, because your bread needs to soak. So that's exactly what I'm getting ready to allow. Now, I took even though I have cinnamon that's already in the cinnamon bread, I'm going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon more of cinnamon. To that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla, and I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of lemon. Now you don't have to do this, you can go straight vanilla. I'm going it because I like the taste that I get from the lemon and the vanilla mixed. So I'm going to mix this together. Okay. And once I mix all of this together, now it's mixed well, then I'm going to take it and I'm going to pour this over my bread. Now I'm pouring this over my bread now because I need the bread to soak. And I need it to pick up the flavors that's coming from the eggs, the milk, the sugar, and the flavors and everything. Now, okay. Now once I've done that, I'm just going to toss it just a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to allow this to sit here while I go and do the apple portion of it. But I want to show you what I did with the apples. Now, like I told you, I was without power for roughly 2 hours. It was still bright outside, bright enough for my home to be lit. But we didn't have power because of the storm, so I just went ahead and cubed up the bread, cubed up the apples. I did not cut the stems. I'm sorry, I didn't cut the outer hull off of the apple. I left it. The only thing I did was to slice the apple down. And then I took it and I cut it in sections. And then I just cubed it. Okay? That's all you need to do for these apples. Now mine may be a little bit brown because, like I said, it's been sitting out. So I'm going to take these cubed apples to the stove and I'm going to go ahead and cook the apples, and then I'm going to add them to this mix, and then we're going to go ahead and bake it off in a 350-degree oven for roughly about 30 to 45 minutes. So I'll be right back. Okay, now in this skillet, remember I used a stick of butter and I melted that down. And I told you at the beginning to take off 1 tablespoon of that stick of butter so that you could have it to do the second part of this apple pie bake. So what I've done is I've taken off that stick of butter and I've melted it, okay? Now that I've melted it, I'm going to take my cubed apples and I'm going to put this into the stick of butter. And I want to change something. I told you that I was going to cook this at 350, but I'm going to cook it at 375 for 30 minutes. It'll be in the oven for at a temperature of 375 degrees, and it'll be in there for 30 minutes. Now, to this mixture, the butter and the apples, I'm going to add 1/4 more of brown sugar. Okay? And this was packed in, so... and you really don't need to pack it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till this starts to really cook, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like, because this is in the beginning stages, so it's just in the pan. So once this starts to really cook, I'll come back and I'll show you what it should look like. Be right back. Okay, now we're back, and I've sauteed these. I want to cut my stove off at this point. I've sauteed these apples up maybe about 12 or 13 minutes. Okay, that's all the long you want to saute them up. And the only thing I want to do is to still be able to break them, but I don't want that crunch. So if it takes you a little bit less time, you know, once you get your crunch out, you don't want to mush them, but you want to take the crunch out of it. Once that crunch is out, then you can go ahead and add this to the mix. Now remember, the only thing that I added inside of this pan was just the sugar and the butter, and that was only 1 tablespoon of butter and 1/4 of a tablespoon, cup of sugar. So now I have my mix. Earlier that I had that's over here. And if you look at this, you can see that I did add a little bit more milk because I didn't want it quite that stiff. So if you need to add a little bit more milk, you can. But this is what you're looking for. This is the way you want it to look. Now you can add the apples to this. Okay? So, and this is going to kick it up a notch because you have that brown sugar that was over in there. And then you want to stir this, okay, into your mix. You don't heavy stir it. Just lightly kind of fold or toss it into your mix. Just so when you take a bite of the bread mixture, you're getting a bite of that apple as well. Now you want to take it and you want to pour it into a buttered baking dish. And this is a 9 by 12 buttered baking dish. And I can put down, because I counted my slices of bread so that I can make sure that I added. And it was just about a loaf of bread. So now once you put that all in, again, I'm going to put it in a 375 degree oven for roughly, that's just my oven saying that I've reached my time limit, but I want to put it in a 375 degree oven for roughly 30 minutes. Now once this bakes off, I'll come back and show you the finished product. Okay, now we're back, and I'm going to take this out of my oven. Okay, and it's ready. I'm cooking something else on my stove, but there it is. I left it in about 35 minutes, okay, just to make sure that it was done. Now you can eat this cooled or you can eat it hot. It really doesn't make a difference how you do it. Just pushing it back a little bit, and as you see, it did rise. That's only because of what was already in the baked products that I used, because there was already baking powder over in it. So I'm going to take out some, just a little, and this is still hot. Okay, and you can see the apples down in the mix. See if I can get some apples and some raisins on top there. I did. Okay. Put just a little bit more. Okay, and scoot it back some because it is hot. Now this is a dish that you can serve hot or cold. You can serve it with ice cream, you can serve it with whipped cream, or you can just eat it by itself. This is apple pie bake. Okay? And that's what I'm making for tonight. So if you have stale leftover bread and you want to use it, you just don't want to throw it away, that's a good way to use it. And as always, thank you for watching Chris Cook for You Too. Bye.